Dabi-chan made 3 mistakes that night. First, she got drunk on soju that tasted like nail polish remover mixed with broken dreams. Second, she bet her friends she could make the sad guy in the corner smile. Third, she grabbed a wheelchair belonging to one of Seoul's most dangerous crime lords and started pushing. "Excuse me, gentlemen," she yelled over the bass that was rattling her teeth. "I'm borrowing him." The wall of men in black suits moved to stop her, but the man in the wheelchair raised one hand. They froze. Dabi didn't notice. She was already spinning the chair around, dropping into a crouch, looking into the most beautiful sad eyes she'd ever seen. Korean. Rich, obviously. Hurt, definitely. Perfect. "Dance with me,"
Dance with me,
she said. He
I can't
stared at her
dance.
like she'd asked him to fly. "I can't dance." "Sure you can."
Sure you can.
She
I
grabbed his
haven't stood
hand.
in 12 years.
His palm was cold. "I haven't stood in 12 years. The words hung between them. Dabi's alcohol-soaked brain finally caught up to what he was saying, but before she could apologize, before she could run away from her spectacular mistake, he squeezed her hand. "But I'll try." What Dabi didn't know, what she couldn't know, was that the man she'd just asked to dance had a twin brother watching from across the room. She didn't know she'd just performed a miracle. And she definitely didn't know that in 6 weeks, she'd be working as a maid in his house, caught between 2 identical men, neither of whom she could have. Hello besties, Happy New Year. Welcome to Afro-Korean Stories. Please like, share and subscribe, and also turn on the notification button so you won't miss out on more intense stories like this. Trust me, you're going to want to see what happens next. The man in the wheelchair looked at Dabi's hand like it was a bomb that might explode. Then he placed his other hand on the armrest and pushed. Nothing happened. Dabi watched his jaw clench, watched sweat break out on his forehead, watched him try with an intensity that made her chest hurt. His entire body was shaking with effort. "It's okay," she started to say. "We don't have to." "No." His voice was steel. "You asked me to try. So I'm trying." The bodyguards were staring. The entire section of the nightclub had gone quiet, people sensing something was happening even if they didn't know what. Dabi kept her hand extended, steady, even though her heart was hammering. Then his leg twitched. Just a small movement, barely visible, but Dabi saw it. So did the man. His eyes went wide with shock. "Did you just—" "Don't let go," he said urgently, gripping her hand tighter. "Whatever you do, don't let go." Dabi held on. She didn't understand what was happening, but she understood desperation when she heard it. The man pushed again, and this time his legs responded. Slowly, shakily, like a newborn deer learning to stand, he rose from the wheelchair. 6 feet of lean muscle and expensive tailoring unfolded. His legs were trembling violently, threatening to collapse at any second, but he was standing. Actually standing. "Holy shit," Dabi whispered. The man looked down at his legs like he was seeing them for the first time. Then he looked at Dabi, and his expression was pure wonder. "How are you doing this?" "I'm not doing anything. That's all you." "No." He shook his head. "It's you. It's only when you—" He swayed, nearly fell. Dabi caught him, her arm going around his waist. "Okay, big guy. Let's not push it. Maybe we just—" "Dance with me," he said, echoing her words back to her. "Please. I don't know how long this will last." So they danced. It wasn't graceful. Every step cost him everything. His legs barely obeyed, muscles relearning forgotten commands. He leaned on her heavily, this stranger who she'd crashed into with drunk confidence. But they were dancing. The heat of another body close to hers, the rhythm moving through them both, the way he smelled like expensive cologne and desperation. She spun slowly under his arm, accommodating his limitations without pity, and smiled up at him like he'd just given her the world. "What's your name?" he managed, breathing hard. "Dabi. Dabi-chan." "Dabi." He tested the syllables in his mouth, his accent making her name sound exotic. "You're drunk." "I'm confident." "There's a difference." Her grin was incandescent. "Besides, you said yes. That's on you, handsome." Around them, phones appeared like stars. The whispers spread in Korean. Dabi didn't speak the language, but she caught a name repeated over and over. Kong Min-jun. "Are you famous or something?" she asked. "Or something," Min-jun said quietly. His legs were starting to give out. She could feel it. The trembling was getting worse. "We should get you back to One more minute, he said. Please. Just one more minute. They danced through 3 songs. Dabby memorized everything without meaning to. The exact shade of his eyes, the way he smiled like he'd forgotten how and was relearning, how he adjusted his grip when his legs weakened without making her feel like she was carrying him. She didn't ask about the wheelchair. Didn't ask about the 12 years. She just treated him like a man who could dance. Why did you do this? He asked during a quiet moment between tracks, when his legs were screaming and his heart was doing something dangerous. Do what? Choose me. Out of everyone here. Dabby looked at him the way she had from the beginning. Like he was just a man, not a miracle, not a mystery. You looked like you needed someone to be a little bit crazy for you. Something cracked open inside Minjun's chest, something that had been frozen since the night 3 bullets shattered his spine and left him half alive. Thank you, he said quietly, for being crazy. They danced until exhaustion became agony, until his legs weren't trembling but convulsing, until staying upright meant risking real collapse. I need to sit, Minjun admitted, hating every word. Okay. No judgment, no disappointment. Dabby helped him back to the wheelchair, her hands steady and sure. The moment he sat, the impossible sensation vanished. His legs went dead again, complete familiar paralysis, like the last hour had been a fever dream. Except it wasn't. The sweat on his forehead was real. The ache in his muscles was real. She was real. One of the bodyguards materialized immediately, wheeling him toward the back exit. Wait, Dabby called. Your name? You never told me your name. Minjun looked back. She stood alone on the dance floor, swaying slightly, backlit by club lights. An angel, a disaster, his salvation in a cocktail dress. Kong Minjun, he said. Nice to meet you, Minjun. She waved, that big American smile still on her face. The pleasure was entirely mine. Then the bodyguard was moving him through the corridor, into the car, into Seoul's pre-dawn darkness. The door closed. The club disappeared behind them. But Dabby's vanilla perfume lingered. Find her, Minjun said the moment they were alone. The bodyguard, Park Taeyong, his head of security, was already on his phone. Named Abby-chan. American. I'm on it. Minjun stared at his hands. Hands that had held her waist, felt her pulse, remembered what it was like to touch someone real. Find everything. Where she's staying, how long she's in Seoul, everything. Sir. Taeyong's voice was careful. What just happened back there? Your legs. I don't know. Minjun tried to stand again, pushed against the seat, commanded his legs to respond. Nothing. Complete paralysis. Like the dance never happened. But it did happen. My muscles still ache. And for 3 impossible songs I walked because of her. Taeyong's phone conversation grew heated, Korean snapping back and forth. The problem was clear before he turned around. Sir, there's no record. What? Dabby-chan. No hotel registry under that name. No visa records that match. We have her face from security footage, but Taeyong's expression was grim. She's a ghost. Minjun stared out at Seoul's neon-soaked streets. Somewhere in this city of 10 million people, an American woman who'd made him walk was disappearing like smoke. Expand the search, he said quietly. Every hotel, every hostel, every Airbnb. Check airport departures. Find her friends from the club. I don't care what it costs. Sir, if she's already left Korea, then find her in America. Minjun's voice dropped to something cold and absolute. That woman made me walk for the first time in 12 years. I will find Dabby-chan. Up in the VIP booth, Kang Min-ho sat in his wheelchair and watched his twin brother leave with the American woman's laughter still echoing in his ears. His hands were white-knuckled on his armrests. His legs were dead weight, exactly as they'd been for 12 years. He'd watched Minjun stand up, watched him walk, watched him do the one thing they'd been told was medically impossible. Min-ho looked down at his own legs and tried, pushed against the chair with everything he had, commanded his body to do what his identical twin's body had just done. Nothing. Not even a twitch. Just the same dead weight that had defined him since the night they were ambushed. Since the bullets that were meant for Minjun hit them both. Since they fell together and woke up paralyzed together. Together. That word was supposed to mean something. They were twins. Identical. They shared DNA, shared a womb, shared a fate. Except tonight, Minjun had walked and Minho hadn't. Sir. Taeyong's second-in-command approached carefully. Should we follow them? No, Minho said. His voice sounded hollow even to his own ears. Let him have this. Because what was the alternative? Tell his brother that watching him walk felt like being abandoned? Tell him that for the first time in 12 years, they weren't the same anymore? Tell him that Minho was terrified of what it meant if only one of them could be whole? The American woman's face was burned into Minho's memory. Brown skin, bright eyes, that smile that made his brother's entire face light up. She'd looked at Minjun like he was worth something. Like he was more than the wheelchair, more than the paralysis, more than the crime lord who ran Seoul from a seated position. Minho wanted someone to look at him like that. He tried to stand one more time, gripping the chair, pushing with everything he had. His legs didn't even quiver. It was like they belonged to someone else, some other body, some other fate. Why him? Minho whispered to the empty VIP booth. Why not me? Nobody answered. The music pounded on below. People danced with working legs. And Kong Minho sat alone in his wheelchair and felt hope die for the second time in his life. 6 weeks passed like slow torture. Minjun's entire intelligence network. People who could find hidden money in offshore accounts, who could track criminals across 3 continents, failed to locate one American woman. She left the country. Taeyong reported on week 3. Flight to Texas. We have confirmation. Minjun stared at the security footage from that night. Frame by frame of her smile, her hands on his, the way she looked at him like he was worth saving. Keep looking anyway. Taeyong shifted uncomfortably. Sir, perhaps we should focus on your recovery. The doctors want to understand what happened. They think if we can replicate the conditions. I know what happened. She touched me and my legs remembered. Minjun's voice was flat empty. Now she's gone and they don't. Keep looking. But there was nothing. Dabby Chin vanished like she was never real. Except he didn't imagine it. So Minjun sat in his wheelchair and watched that footage and felt his legs stay dead, and tried not to think about vanilla perfume. He was failing at that last part. Minho watched his brother deteriorate for 6 weeks and didn't know how to help. Because how do you comfort someone who experienced a miracle and lost it? How do you tell your twin that you're relieved he can't walk anymore because at least now you're equal again? You don't. You stay quiet and you hate yourself for being relieved. Hyung, Minho said one night, using the Korean honorific for older brother. They were in Minjun's office, going over territory reports that neither of them cared about. You need to let her go. Minjun looked up. His eyes were hollow. I can't. She's gone. She's in America. Even if we found her, what then? You drag her back to Korea? Force her to stay near you so you can walk. That's not. I know. Minjun's hands clenched into fists. I know it's selfish. I know it's impossible. I know I should let it go. But for 3 songs I was whole. Do you have any idea what that felt like? Minho looked down at his own useless legs. No, he lied. I don't. Because the truth was worse. The truth was that Minho dreamed about it every night. Dreamed about standing up, about that American woman looking at him the way she'd looked at Minjun. About being the one who got the miracle instead of watching from the shadows. I'm sorry. Minjun said quietly. I shouldn't have. It's fine. Minho forced a smile. We'll find her. If anyone can track down a ghost, it's us. But they didn't find her. Week 4 came and went. Week 5. Week 6. The trail stayed cold. Dabby Chin was gone. Meanwhile, that flight Taeyong had confirmed turned out to be a computer glitch. Cancelled 2 hours before boarding. Dabby had discovered it standing at the airport, bags packed, ready to forget Korea and mysterious men who somehow stood up just because she asked. System error, the airline representative said in broken English. Full refund, but no available flights for 3 months. Dabby tried 6 airlines. Same story. Peak season, holidays, everything is booked solid. Her work visa expired in 4 days. Her savings account had maybe $300. She found herself crying in an airport bathroom stall because sometimes the universe really liked to kick you when you're down. I can get you work, her roommate Ji-won said when Dabby dragged herself back to the hostel. My agency places domestic workers with rich families. Good pay. I can't speak Korean. Some families want English speakers for their kids. Plus, you're American. That's exotic here. Ji-won pulled up something on her phone. Look, this family is hiring. Big estate, live-in position. They specifically requested someone who speaks English. Dabby stared at the water-stained ceiling of their tiny room. How good is the pay? Good enough to get you home in 2 months if you're careful. 2 months. 60 more days in Seoul. Then she could leave this whole mess behind. The club, the mystery man. The feeling that she'd touched something magical and lost it. Okay, Dabby said. Set up the interview. That was how Dabby ended up in a maid's uniform at an estate that looked like it belonged in a drama. The head housekeeper, Mrs. Young, walked her through the rules in careful English. The family values privacy. No photos, no gossip. You clean, you cook when asked, you disappear when not needed. Got it. Be invisible. Mrs. Young's expression softened slightly. The masters are not difficult, just particular. And they're both in wheelchairs, so be mindful of space. Keep pathways clear, don't leave things on the floor. Dabby's heart skipped. Both. There are 2 of them. Twin brothers. The Kong family is very prominent. Mrs. Young opened the study door. Sir, the new staff member. Dabby walked in, polite smile ready, and her heart stopped. It was him. The man from the club. Sharp jaw, dark eyes. That intense way of looking at someone like they were the only person in the world. Kong Min-jun sat behind a massive desk, laptop open, looking exactly like someone who could make a girl dance in a crowded nightclub. He looked up. Their eyes met. His expression stayed perfectly, professionally blank. He doesn't recognize me, Dabby realized. Her heart sank like a stone. The club was dark. She'd been drunk with different hair and heavy makeup, different clothes, different context. She was just another maid now. Welcome, he said in Korean, Mrs. Young translating. I hope you'll be comfortable here. Dabby's voice came out steady, professional. Thank you, sir. He gave a brief nod, then returned to his laptop, dismissing her without a second glance. Mrs. Young ushered her out. Dabby walked to her small staff room, closed the door, and slid down to sit on the floor. He doesn't remember. The night that had been playing on repeat in her head for 6 weeks, dancing, his hands on her waist, the miracle of him standing, didn't exist for him. She was nobody again. Get over yourself, Dabby muttered. You're here to work, save money, leave. That's it. But her hands were shaking and her heart wouldn't stop racing. Meanwhile, Min-jun had stopped breathing the moment she walked through the door. The new maid. Dabby. Mrs. Young had said her name was Dabby, and Min-jun's entire world tilted sideways. It was her. Same heart-shaped face, same full lips, same warm brown skin that glowed under nightclub lights. Hair pulled back now, no makeup, wearing a simple uniform instead of that borrowed dress. But it was her. Dabby-chun. The woman who made him stand then vanished. The woman his entire organization couldn't find for 6 weeks. She was here. In his house. Wearing a maid's uniform and looking at him with polite professional distance. She doesn't recognize me, he realized. She was drunk that night. The club was dark. He was just another face, another random man in a wheelchair. She doesn't remember. Thank you, sir, she said, and her voice was exactly like he remembered. Warm, slightly husky, with that American accent that made English sound like music. The moment the door closed, Min-jun grabbed his phone. Taeyang. My office. Now. His second-in-command arrived in 3 minutes, slightly out of breath. Sir. The new maid. Dabby. Run a full background check. I want to know everything. Taeyang's eyes widened. Everything. Where she's been for 6 weeks, why she's here, how she ended up at this estate specifically. Min-jun's hands were shaking. He pressed them flat on the desk. And nobody tells her I'm looking. Nobody. Sir. Understanding dawned on Taeyang's face. It's her. The woman from the club. Yes. She doesn't recognize you? No. Are you going to tell her? Min-jun stared at the closed door, at the space where she'd stood, at the possibility that just walked back into his life. Not yet. If she knew who I really was, what I do, what I am, she'd run. And I just got her back. Sir, this is. Keep the investigation quiet. And Taeyang. Min-jun's voice dropped. She stays. Whatever she needs, whatever it takes. She doesn't leave this estate. In the hallway, Dabby carried fresh linens to the storage room, and tried to calm her racing heart. She'd just walked past another door, heard voices inside, heard someone say Hyung, in that particular way that meant older brother. Twin brothers, Mrs. Young had said. Both in wheelchairs. Dabby's hands tightened on the linens. No, it couldn't be. The universe wasn't that cruel or that kind, depending on how you looked at it. She knocked on the door. Laundry service. Come in. A voice said in accented English. Dabby pushed the door open and froze. There were two of them. Identical. Same face, same build, same expensive clothes. Both in wheelchairs. Both looking at her with varying degrees of surprise. Holy shit, Dabby said, forgetting every professional boundary. There are two of you. The one on the left, not Minjun, someone else who looked exactly like Minjun smiled. It was a warm smile, nothing like the cold professionalism she'd gotten from his twin. I'm Kang Minho, he said in perfect English. You must be the new hire. Dabby, right? Right. Dabby. That's me. Dabby. She was babbling. She needed to stop babbling. Sorry, I just twins. You're twins. Identical, Minho confirmed. Don't worry, everyone gets confused at first. I'm the handsome one. From across the room, the other man, definitely Minjun now that she saw them together, made a sound that might have been a laugh. He's the one with delusions. See, Minho smile vidět. He's already jealous. Dabby set down the linens with shaking hands. This was insane. The man from the club had an identical twin brother. Both paralyzed. Both living in this massive estate. And neither of them recognized her. Or did they? She looked at Minjun. He was studiously ignoring her, focused on his laptop. Then she looked at Minho, who was watching her with open curiosity and something else. Something that looked almost like hope. I should get back to work, Dabby managed. Of course. Minho was still smiling. But if you need anything, I'm usually in the garden in the afternoons. Minjun Hyung prefers his study. If you can't tell us apart, just remember, I'm the friendly one. Noted. Dabby backed toward the door, bowed awkwardly. Was she supposed to bow? And fled. She made it to the storage room before she had to sit down. Her legs were shaking. Her heart was trying to escape her chest. Two of them. There were two identical men who looked exactly like the person who'd made her feel magic for 3 songs. And she had no idea which one she'd danced with, which one had stood up for her, which one had looked at her like she was a miracle. Or maybe it didn't matter. Maybe neither of them remembered. Maybe she was just the help, invisible and forgettable, and that night in the club was exactly what she'd thought. A drunk mistake that meant nothing. Dabby pressed her palms against her eyes and tried not to cry. She'd come to Korea to escape her life in Texas, to have an adventure, to find something that felt real. Instead, she'd found 2 men she couldn't have, a miracle she didn't understand, and a job that paid just enough to eventually leave it all behind. 2 months, she reminded herself. Just 2 months. Then she could go home and forget any of this happened. In his study, Minjun sat very still and tried to process what just happened. She'd seen Minho. Dr. Minho. Smiled at Minho's joke in a way she hadn't smiled at him. His phone buzzed. A text from his twin. So that's her? The woman from the club? Minjun typed back. How did you know? Because you're acting insane, and I saw the security footage you've been watching for 6 weeks. Also, she's the first woman you've looked at in 12 years. Kind of obvious, Hyung. Minjun closed his eyes. Don't tell her. Why not? Because I need to understand what's happening first. Why I can walk around her. Why it only works with her. I need time. There was a long pause. But Hyung? Be careful. She's not just a miracle. She's a person. And people can get hurt. Minjun looked at his useless legs and thought about 6 weeks of searching, 6 weeks of hoping, 6 weeks of feeling his body betray him every morning when he woke up still paralyzed. I know, he typed. That's what I'm afraid of. That night, Dabby delivered fresh towels to Minjun's bathroom. A normal task. Completely routine. But she was hyper-aware of every movement, every breath, every second she spent in his space. He was at his desk, working. He didn't look up when she entered. Dabby set the towels on the counter and turned to leave. Wait, Minjun said. She froze. Sir. The shelf above the sink. Can you reach the bottles on top? I need them moved to the lower shelf. Dabby looked up. The shelf was high, even for her. I can try. She stretched, standing on her toes, fingers brushing the bottles but not quite able to grab them. Behind her, she heard Minjun's wheelchair move. Then he was there, right behind her, his presence solid and warm. Allow me, he said quietly. His arm extended past her shoulder. And he was standing. Not leaning on his chair, not gripping furniture. Just standing behind her, his chest almost touching her back, reaching over her head with ease. He grabbed the bottles. They were both still. Both breathing. Dabby could see their reflection in the mirror. Could see the way he was looking at her. Got it, he whispered. She turned. They were inches apart. Close enough that she could smell his cologne, could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes, could feel the heat radiating off his body. You just stood up, Dabby said. Her voice sounded strange. Without help. I know. How is that possible? His eyes searched hers like he was looking for an answer he couldn't find. I don't know. But it only happens when you're here. The words hung between them, heavy with implication. Dabby's heart was hammering so hard she was sure he could hear it. That doesn't make sense, she managed. I know. But here we are. The air between them was electric. Dabby knew she should step back, should establish boundaries, should remember this was her boss and she was just the help and nothing could happen. She didn't move. Neither did he. Sir, Mrs. Young's voice from the hallway. The car is ready for your appointment. Minjun stepped back, dropped into his wheelchair with the practiced ease of 12 years. Thank you, Dabby, he said formally, his voice completely controlled. She nodded, unable to speak, and backed out of the study like she'd been burned. Because she had been. And God help her, she wanted more. If you're still watching this, if you're invested in Dabby and these twin brothers and what happens next, please subscribe. I'm pouring my heart into this story and your support means everything. Hit that subscribe button, leave a comment telling me what you think is going to happen, and turn on notifications. Because trust me, you don't want to miss what comes next. And if you don't subscribe, you'll miss the most intense part of this story and you'll regret it. Don't be that person.